Hello and welcome to Frosty Talk, the show that connects you, the path to pro enthusiast, with players from sheer code. And joining me today is Kraandop, main tank for the team. So Kraandop, welcome to the show. Why don't you start us off by telling us who you are and maybe just a little bit about yourself?
As you said, I'm Kraandop. My real name is Timber. I'm the main tank for Sheer Cold, and previously I played on teams as Uprising Academy, played for Young and Beautiful, for Bazooka Puppies and HSL. I've been playing for about 2.5 years in Contenders now, including Contenders Trials, and now I'm playing for Sheer Cold, and we'll try to get to the top there.
Nice. So I was looking at this actually. I like to do a little bit of research on the players, and according to Wikipedia, and okay, Wikipedia can be wrong sometimes, you've been playing since 2018. I've got you down as starting on Rift Academy, and then, like, looking at the list of teams you've played for, like, these are some really big names, you know, HSL Esports, Bazooka Puppies, Young and Beautiful, Uprising Academy, and now Sheer Code. So you've actually been doing this for a really long time. Like, I you know, I don't want to say that you're old because I'm significantly older than you are. But yeah. I don't think there are many other people still playing at this level that have been doing this since 2018. How have you kept that enthusiasm up all this time?
Well, I started a long time ago, I said in 2018, and it's always been a dream for me to get into Overwatch League. And since I only somewhat recently turned 18, I've only actually really been able to get to that goal only recently. So that's been a goal for me to get to that Overwatch League stage. So the motivation is mainly coming from the dream of going to Overwatch League.
That's interesting. I didn't realize you were as young as that. So it's a really strange situation where you've been doing this for 3 years, but actually now you're properly eligible to do that. So yeah. I hadn't realized that. So what drew you to Overwatch in the first place? Have you got any background in anything else?
In gaming, you mean in general?
Yeah,
or?
In gaming. In competing. It could be real sports, could be esports.
Not necessarily competing, not at all. I played CSGO before I came to Overwatch, but that was more just for fun with friends.
Yeah.
And other than that, I played a bit of soccer or football back in the day, but that was nothing really competitive.
Okay, so CSGO is an interesting one because you're obviously a main tank player, and I don't want to perpetuate the stereotype that you don't need to aim as a main tank, because clearly you do, but what drew you to playing tank when you've come from, even if you're only playing it casually, something that's a pretty aim-intensive game like CSGO?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it kind of came as a surprise to me too. Whenever I started playing the game more seriously, whenever I decided, okay, well, maybe I want to actually try to make a career out of this, I started looking for a team in a Discord that my friend sent me, and as a team came back to me and asked me if I wanted to try out for their team. So I went into that lobby, and I wasn't sure what I was going to be playing. So when I joined the lobby, I asked, okay, so what heroes are you looking for me to play? And then they said, oh yeah, we're looking for a main tank, so you'd be playing Reinhardt and Winston. I said, all right, sure, I'll do that. And from then on out, I actually started playing main tank, and I committed to it.
Right, so it was as early as that. You didn't, you know, I've spoken to a few people on this show previously. They've been like, oh, you know, when I started, I was a Genji main, but now I'm playing Lucio full time. You're just like, okay, well, this is what they want me to play, so that's what I'm going to play, and you're just stuck with it.
I stuck with it, and it's been working out decently well, so I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I mean, you've certainly been making a bit of a name for yourself. I kind of want to talk about your time at Uprising Academy, because looking at the dates here, you were on that team for almost an entire year. Like that's actually a really long stint for a Contenders player on a Contenders team. But obviously playing at that sort of, let's call it a ping disadvantage and really weird time zones. How did you find that time playing on Uprising Academy?
How did I find the time? I mean, it's obviously also shifting your sleeping schedule by quite a bit. There was a point where I would be going to bed around 10 a.m. in the morning, and I'd wake up at 5 p.m. in the afternoon, almost evening. So I shifted my time schedule, my sleep schedule around by quite a bit. I was basically living during the night and sleeping during the day. But in the beginning, I wasn't able to actually do that because I had school still. I finished school around April last year, so that was when I was in Uprising Academy for about 4 to 5 months. But after I got finished with school, I shifted my sleep schedule so I could actually play scrims in North American time and keep playing then, and also talk with the team and do some VOD reviewing after scrims.
Yeah, that's a big commitment, like making that big lifestyle change so that you can play in an A team. And I feel like that must be quite tiring, particularly if you're trying to see friends and family at the same time.
Yeah.
Without wanting to dwell too much on another team when we're here talking specifically about players for sheer cold, I feel like this is an important part of your history. Do you think that the time that you put in there and the effort that you put in there to do that, do you think that was worthwhile overall? Do you think it was a valuable experience for you?
I think there was definitely quite a few lessons that I learned being in Uprising Academy. Although I have to say, I didn't get out of it what I quite wanted to get out of it when I first initially came into the team. Were some expectations I had, and also some things that were said before and during my time on the team that didn't fully came to be. One of them being, for example, visas. Because I was supposed to actually live in NA,
Oh,
but because of COVID, we ended up having our visas cancelled, and we weren't actually able to go live in the team house in Boston there. So
that's a real shame.
exactly. So there were a few things that definitely didn't end up happening. But yeah, I think overall it was a valuable experience, but some things didn't end up happening that I wanted to happen.
Yeah, COVID obviously upset quite a lot of things over the past, I don't know, it feels like it's been a decade we've been living like
Yeah,
this
exactly,
now.
man.
Yeah, but at least you're back in EU and you can sort of compete at a more reasonable hour and a reasonable time. I have one more question on the sort of general tell us about yourself kind of aspect before we move to talk about your place in sheer cold, which is say every hero except one gets removed from your hero pool to play. You can only play one hero for the rest of your time in Overwatch. Who are you playing?
Who am I playing?
I think I know. I think I know the answer. I think I have it.
Yeah, I think it'd be Reinhardt. I mean, I can't you can't go wrong with Reinhardt. There's so many fun things you can do with him.
Very impactful character, and that was my guess as well. So happy to be right on that one. So we're going to
Yeah.
move over and talk a little bit more about your place on the team and what it's like working with Sheer Cold. So this is a new Sheer Cold. Like the last time I did one of these interviews was with the 2020 roster, and it's kind of moved away. Some people have retired, some people have moved teams. So a lot of fresh blood in the team, and so there's obviously been a bit of a recruitment drive. I wonder if you could talk us through what the process for getting picked up for Sheer Cold was.
Well, we first obviously look at every player for the roles that we're looking for. We know quite a few players, obviously, because when you play in a professional environment, most of the time you know most other professional players as well. So we contact those people first that we already know, and then I personally also look at rank ladder. I check the leaderboards to see who are high up and to see if we can maybe scout some up and coming talent. Then we might give them a tryout just to see how they would perform in a team environment, which is obviously very different from ranked, but still important to scout for that newer talent. So we look to give those type of players a chance as well. And then during the trialing process, we look for different type of skills, such as just mechanical skill, team play, overall mental as well. How you last if it scrims aren't going well, or if scrims are going really well, maybe start letting loose a little bit.
Yeah.
So we try to scout around to those type of skills.
Okay, so that seems like you were quite involved in, or at least talking to coaches, being involved with the process of finding new players.
Yeah.
What about yourself? Because the main tank role is kind of like that's the backbone for a team. How did you personally get involved with Sheer Cold this time around?
Oh, it's quite an interesting story actually. I started off this season obviously being looking for a team after I left Uprising Academy. I started just trialing for a few teams here and there. One of them was Sheer Cold, but Sheer Cold ended up kind of falling apart. And then I ended up messaging one other player who's now in Choose Crew, Alex. I asked him if he wanted to make a team together, and we ended up trying to make a team together. And at some point, Sheer Cold came to us and asked, "Hey, if you actually manage to get a good team together, we would be willing to work with you if you would like to." So we ended up taking that offer, and we ended up me and Alex making a team together and setting things up. But things went a little different than expected at some point, and Alex ended up going to Choose Crew, which is fine. Obviously, I don't mind. And then from there on out, we already had a decent team already. So we just picked up a few different players that, for example, for the off-tank role, initially Shu. And then from then on out, we kind of made a team there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to talk about Shu because obviously Shu was only here for that last season of, that last month of Contenders, and he's moved on to other things now. But with the pickup of NKZ, I can't help but noticing this is 4 out of 6 players on Sheer Cold are Dutch. Are you enjoying playing on a mostly Dutch team?
I mean, I'd say yes. I really like the players, of course. But personally, before Sheer Cold, with most players, I didn't have too much of a connection. It's kind of it sounds a bit odd, of course, but it is a coincidence that the players are Dutch. They're just really good players, and in everyone's opinion, they are the best at the role that we while trialing. So there is not like a Dutch bias there, but it's of course
it just happened. Yeah,
it happened to be that way, and then it sticks out a bit.
Yeah, it's like Young and Beautiful, and they sort of accidentally ended up with a French roster. They weren't trying to. They're just like, oh well, guess we're French now.
Guess we're French. Yeah, exactly. Now we're Dutch. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's we've only got to get rid of Wememo and Love and find a couple more Dutch players, and you can start coming in Dutch just like you've always, I'm sure, dreamed of.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. So you're obviously, for anyone that has firstly not listened to the previous few minutes of this interview and never run into you on Ladder or on Twitter or whatever, you're the main tank player, and that's typically seen as the backbone of the team. Like, if you don't have a good main tank, good luck. Enjoy Open Division. So how do you find yourself in that role, like as a leader, as the backbone? How do you cope with that ongoing pressure to be performing in, if not quite a carry role, still a very important role in the team?
I think mainly it's I don't know. I don't really mind it too much because I like things depending on me, because I feel like I can really grind a lot and I can improve quickly, and I know how to make sure the team can perform well. So I kind of like having that responsibility on me, because I feel like I can deliver on the platform as well. I feel like I can step up and help the team improve fast. So I kind of like having that pressure and that responsibility on me.
Okay. And one other thing I wanted to talk about for Sheer Cold was 2020 was a very solid year for Sheer Cold, and I don't just mean in terms of like the performance, because they were up at the top of Contenders for certainly the latter half of the year, but also in terms of having a core 6 players consistently on the roster for an entire year and kind of building a team identity around that 6 people. And this is almost a completely new roster, largely built by yourself and Alex, with new players coming in. Do you feel any pressure to live up to sort of the reputation that Sheer Cold had, or are you happy being your own group of players here?
I'm happy to be my own group of players. Personally, of course, we want to outperform the previous rosters. That's always everyone's dream, to just try for that improvement. But I think everyone knows when a team fully changes, there's different expectations for that team. For example, when Vancouver Titans went from runaway roster to a completely different roster, of course, people weren't realistically able to have the same type of expectations. But I think, of course, we want to do better, but there's not really pressure from previous rosters, at least not for me.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. Nice that you are sort of relaxed into that role. So that's our team question portion done. I wanted to move to our slightly less serious quickfire questions from Twitter, and I don't have too many today. So, firstly, coming in from Coach Thor, what is the highest age someone has guessed for you because of your deep voice?
I've been few guesses, definitely mid-20s.
Wow.
But I think the highest guess was somewhere low 30s,
Ooh.
31, 32. But I'm not even sure if that person was being serious or not.
Okay.
I can't really tell, but yeah, that'd be the highest guess.
Okay. Secondly, coming in from Spyra, are you having nightmares about Wememo blocking your shatters with May?
I wake up in cold sweat every day. Man, oh my god.
Okay, what is your dream city for a new Overwatch League team?
Of course, I could go with a Dutch city really easily with Amsterdam.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think honestly, I think Amsterdam would be the easiest way to go.
What would the team name be? The Amsterdam. Give me a vowel. Give me a verb.
We had a meme in the Netherlands about 2 years ago before World Cup, but I'm not allowed. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that name.
Okay. But, hey, I appreciate you keeping it PG. Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I don't really know. No, I don't know. I
All
don't
right,
know.
we'll take the pressure off you on that one. And that question was from Sander, so thank you, Sander. And finally, from VMAT, and this is actually, I think, possibly quite a difficult question, so this might be a longer one. What do you feel is the difference between a low GM player to a high GM player to a top OD player and then to contenders? Like, what's the change in quality through that journey?
I think it really depends on the player and what role. For example, a hitscan player who's low GM might be able to kind of click heads at a decent level, but he doesn't understand positioning, for example, or he doesn't understand how to use or manage their abilities. For main tank, it might be the other way around, where they kind of know how to position a little bit at low GM level, but then don't really know how to juggle on Winston, for example, or how to actually consistently get shatters off. But I think in the low GM range, you kind of have one skill that you're good at. If it is mechanics, you're kind of good at mechanics, or slightly better at positioning. You have like one skill that you're good at. When you're getting the higher GM ratings, I'd say you're slowly starting to develop that second skill, that the mechanics and the positioning, for example. Open division, you start thinking more about team play, how to coordinate a push, how to make sure how to use everyone's abilities at the same time, how to get more value out of everyone's engage instead of just looking at yourself. And then at the top contenders level, you're really starting to think about how you can use one ability into another, and then kind of cycle through those abilities to deny one player from the enemy team that you can then take advantage of. For example, you denied the enemy D.Va by having your Kree on one side of the map, so that your Zarya can be more aggressive if you're Lucio to look for a grab, because a D.Va will be focused on the Kree, for example. So you're trying to be more complicated in that way in contenders.
Well, thank you. That was a very. If that was completely off the cuff and you've not written any of that down, that was a very good, very succinct answer. So thank you for that one. But that does bring us to the end of our questions from Twitter. And that kind of brings us to the end of the interview here. So to help us wrap things up here, Kraandop, where can people find you? Social media, streaming, etc. Give yourself a plug.
All right. Well, on Twitter, you can always find me twitter.com/KraandopOW. I post clips from my gameplay and sometimes some thoughts. And I've also recently, about a week and a half ago or a week ago, I started streaming more, KraandopOW on Twitch. I've been trying to consistently stream about 5 to 6 days a week, and I hope to keep that up for as long as I can.
Nice. Well, we'll be sure to try and funnel people your way as and when we can. And I have actually just thought of a question I meant to ask you, but have completely forgotten. What does Kraandop mean? What's that?
Kraandop. Yeah. I mean, it originated from. It used to just be my name, Timber, and then the number 10. That was my usual name. But at some point, I was making a Minecraft account actually about when I was 8 or 10. I forgot. But that name was already in use. So my friend said, look around you, see name 2 items that you see. And I saw a kraan and a dop, which means a tap, a water tap, and a bottle cap. So my name could be translated to tap cap.
Okay, well, that was not what I was expecting, but nice to have that clarity. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
sure.
so that's social media and streams for Kraandop. Please go and check him out, give him a follow at the very least. And everybody else, thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be back soon with even more player content. But in the meantime, if you want to keep up with Sheercode, all of the players on the team and their run through contenders, then follow them on social media, and that's at Sheercode GG. And in the meantime, stay frosty.